Hello friends, welcome to the world of science fiction and forgotten words, Alien Universe. Don't forget to like, subscribe and never miss a new stories and movies from this channel. Thank you.
Most alien cadets at the Orion Military Academy believed one simple rule: never challenge a human from a death world, unless you had a death wish. But rules like that were easy to ignore when pride got in the way. And tonight, 5 alien enforcers were about to make the worst mistake of their lives. The Academy's central corridor was loud and crowded. Cadets from dozens of worlds walked past each other, their armor clanking, their voices echoing in strange languages. Tall reptilian soldiers, insect-like strategists, floating scholars, and armored warriors from distant systems filled the hall. In the middle of all that noise, one human walked quietly. His name was Ethan Cole. He was new. A first-week recruit from Earth, a world officially classified as a Class 12 death world. The kind of planet most alien species would never survive for more than a few hours. But Ethan didn't look dangerous. He looked normal. Medium height, simple academy uniform, no visible weapons, no heavy armor. Just a calm face and steady steps as he moved through the hallway, ignoring the curious stares around him. To most aliens, humans were strange creatures. They came from a world full of gravity, predators, violent storms, toxic oceans, and diseases that could wipe out entire colonies. Yet somehow, humans survived all of it. That alone made them unsettling. But Ethan wasn't thinking about any of that. He was simply trying to reach the training wing before curfew. Unfortunately for him, someone else had different plans. The corridor suddenly grew quieter. 5 large figures stepped into his path, blocking the way. They were the Academy's unofficial enforcers, senior cadets who believed the station belonged to them. Most recruits avoided them completely. Their leader, a towering alien named Krath, was nearly 8 feet tall. His thick armored skin looked like dark stone, and 2 curved horns stretched from the sides of his skull. His species came from a war-torn planet where strength decided everything. Behind him stood 4 others, each one large, heavily built, and clearly ready for trouble. Krath looked down at the human with slow amusement. Well, he rumbled, his deep voice echoing through the corridor. What do we have here? The famous Deathworld recruit. Several nearby cadets stopped walking. Everyone knew where this was going. Ethan stopped a few steps away from them. He glanced at the 5 aliens blocking his path, then calmly shifted, his bag on his shoulder. "I'm just trying to pass," he said quietly. "Move, please." That only made the surrounding aliens murmur louder. Krath laughed. It wasn't a friendly laugh. "You hear that?" he said to the others. "The little human thinks he can give orders." One of the enforcers, a 4-armed brute with glowing red eyes, stepped forward. "You're new here, human," he hissed. "That means you follow Academy traditions." Ethan sighed softly. "And what tradition is that?" he asked. Krath leaned closer, towering over him. "Every new recruit pays respect to the seniors," he said slowly. "You kneel and apologize for walking through our corridor." A few cadets watching from the sides looked nervous. Some even stepped back, because this wasn't really about respect. It was about humiliation. The enforcers loved picking easy targets. Smaller species, quiet students, anyone who looked weak. And right now, Ethan looked like the perfect victim. The hallway grew completely silent. Everyone was waiting to see what the human would do. Ethan stood still for a moment. Then he looked around at the 5 aliens surrounding him. His expression didn't change. "You're serious?" he asked calmly. Krath's eyes narrowed. "Very serious." Ethan nodded slowly, as if considering the request. Then he shook his head. "No." The word echoed in the corridor. For a second, nobody moved. Then one of the enforcers laughed loudly. "Oh, this is going to be fun." Krath's smile slowly disappeared. "You don't understand your situation, human," he said, his voice turning colder. "There are 5 of us." Ethan met his gaze without fear. "I noticed." Krath took one heavy step forward. "And if you refuse," he growled, "will make you regret it." Around them, Several cadets quietly activated their wrist recorders. Moments like this spread quickly across the Academy network. Human recruit versus 5 senior enforcers. The outcome seemed obvious. But Ethan didn't look worried. In fact, something about his calmness made a few observers feel uneasy. Krath cracked his knuckles, a sound like breaking stone. "Last chance, human," he said. "Kneel." Ethan slowly placed his bag on the floor. The movement made several aliens lean forward with interest. Then he rolled his shoulders, stretching slightly, like someone preparing for exercise. When he finally looked back at the 5 enforcers, his voice was quiet. "Okay," Ethan said. "If you're all done talking, you can try." For a brief moment, the corridor felt colder, because something in the human's eyes had changed, and the 5 alien enforcers didn't realize it yet. But they had just picked a fight with the most dangerous cadet in the entire academy. For a moment, the corridor stayed completely silent. No one expected the human to say that. Most recruits begged. Some tried to run. Others froze in fear when the academy's enforcers surrounded them. But Ethan Cole simply stood there, calm and steady, as if 5 large alien warriors blocking his path was nothing unusual. Krath's heavy jaw tightened. "You're either very brave," he growled, "or very stupid." Ethan shrugged slightly. "Maybe neither," he replied quietly. That answer only made the other enforcers angrier. The 4-armed alien stepped forward first. His name was Varric, a fighter from a high-gravity world known for brutal combat sports. His muscles twisted under thick armor plates as he cracked 2 of his knuckles. "You think this is funny, human?" Varric hissed. Ethan didn't answer. He just stood there, watching, waiting. The silence stretched, long enough to make several cadets shift nervously. Then Varric suddenly lunged forward, to the crowd watching. It looked incredibly fast. His species could strike faster than most humanoids could even react. His upper arms grabbed for Ethan's shoulders while the lower pair swung toward his chest. The attack should have ended the fight instantly. But something strange happened. The human moved, not in panic, not in fear. Just a small step to the side. Varric's grab missed completely. Before the alien could react, Ethan's hand shot forward and pushed against Varric's elbow joint. There was a sharp crack. Varric screamed. His arm twisted the wrong direction, and his massive body slammed straight into the corridor floor. The entire hallway gasped. It had happened so quickly that many cadets didn't even understand what they had seen. Varric, one of the Academy's strongest fighters, was suddenly lying on the ground, clutching his broken arm. Krath's eyes widened slightly. "That was luck," one of the enforcers muttered. But Ethan didn't look surprised. He stepped back into the same relaxed stance as before. "4 left," he said calmly. The words made the watching crowd whisper loudly. Krath's face darkened with rage. "Get him," he barked. This time 2 aliens attacked together. One was a reptilian cadet with thick scales and heavy claws. The other was a tall insectoid whose long legs allowed it to leap incredible distances. They rushed the human from both sides. The reptilian swung first. A powerful claw strike aimed directly at Ethan's head. Ethan ducked. The claw sliced through empty air. In the same instant, the insectoid leaped forward, its blade-like forelimbs snapping toward Ethan's torso. But the human was already moving. He grabbed the reptilian's arm, pulled it forward, and used the alien's own momentum to spin its massive body sideways. The reptilian crashed directly into the airborne insectoid. Both aliens slammed into each other with a loud metallic thud and collapsed into a tangled heap on the floor. A wave of shocked voices rippled through the corridor. 3 enforcers down, and the human hadn't even looked tired. Krath stared at the scene in disbelief. This wasn't supposed to happen. Humans were dangerous, yes, but this recruit was supposed to be inexperienced, weak compared to trained senior cadets. Yet somehow, every move he made was precise, controlled, efficient, as if he had done this many times before. Krath slowly stepped forward again. Now only 2 enforcers remained standing beside him. The 4th Alien, a thick armored brute with glowing yellow eyes, hesitated. "I don't like this," he muttered. Krath growled. "You're afraid of one human?" The brute glanced at Ethan, who still stood quietly in the middle of the corridor. The human's breathing was steady. His face showed no anger. No excitement. Nothing. That calm expression made the alien uneasy. But Krath had already decided. He roared loudly and charged. The corridor shook under his heavy steps as the massive alien rushed forward like a living tank. Behind him, the last enforcer followed. Two massive warriors against one human. This time, the attack looked unstoppable. Krath swung his huge fist, aiming to crush the human's skull in a single blow. The watching cadets held their breath, but Ethan did something unexpected. He didn't dodge. Instead, he stepped forward, directly toward the charging giant. For the first time since the fight began, Krath hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second, and that tiny mistake changed everything. Ethan's body twisted smoothly. His hand shot up, grabbing Krath's wrist mid-swing. Then the human dropped his weight and pulled. Krath's enormous body suddenly lost balance. The giant alien flipped forward over Ethan's shoulder and smashed into the floor with a thunderous crash that shook the entire corridor. The ground trembled. Krath lay stunned, staring at the ceiling. The hallway exploded with shocked voices. No one could believe what they were seeing, but the fight wasn't over yet, because the last enforcer was still standing. And now he was staring at Ethan, with real fear in his glowing eyes. The corridor was no longer loud with laughter. Now it was filled with whispers. 3 enforcers were already on the ground, one with a broken arm, 2 tangled together and barely moving, and Krath, the giant leader, still trying to understand how. He had just been thrown like a training dummy. Only one alien remained standing. His name was Draxel, a heavy armored cadet from a brutal mining world. His thick chest plates were designed to absorb explosions, and his species was known for one simple trait: they never backed down. But right now, Draxel was staring at Ethan with something he had not felt in years. The human stood calmly in the middle of the corridor. His breathing was steady. His uniform wasn't even torn. Around them, more cadets had gathered. Some stood on the upper walkways, leaning over the railings to watch. Others quietly activated their recorders. The Academy network would explode. With this footage, a single human recruit, 4 senior enforcers, already defeated. And the last one hesitating. Krath slowly pushed himself up from the floor, groaning with pain. His massive body shook with anger and humiliation. "Draxel!" he roared. "Finish him!" The order echoed through the hall. Draxel clenched his fists. His pride wouldn't allow him to walk away now. Too many cadets were watching. He stepped forward slowly. The heavy metal plates on his armor clanked with every movement. "You're fast, human," Draxel said, his deep voice rumbling like distant thunder. "But speed won't help you now." Ethan tilted his head slightly. "Oh?" he said quietly. Draxel slammed one foot into the floor. The metal ground dented under the impact. "My species weighs 3 times more than yours," Draxel continued. "My armor is military grade. You can't throw me like the others." Some cadets in the crowd nodded. That was true. Draxel wasn't like the other enforcers. His species was built for brute force. Their bones were nearly impossible to break, and their muscles could crush steel. Even Ethan seemed smaller standing in front of him. For a moment, no one moved. Then Draxel charged. Unlike Krath's wild rush, this attack was controlled. Each heavy step shook the corridor. His fists swung forward like giant hammers, aiming to trap the human between raw strength and armored weight. Ethan stepped back. Draxel's fist smashed into the wall beside him. The metal panel bent inward with a loud crash. Gasps spread through the crowd. That blow could have crushed a skull instantly. Draxel swung again. Ethan ducked. Another punch. Ethan slipped to the side. The fight turned into a strange rhythm. A massive alien throwing devastating strikes, the human moving just inches away from each one. But something was changing. The watching cadets slowly noticed it. Ethan wasn't just dodging. He was studying. Every step Draxel took, every swing, every shift in weight. The human's eyes followed it carefully, like he was solving a puzzle. Draxel roared in frustration. "Stop running!" His fist came down again. This time Ethan moved closer instead of away. The sudden step confused Draxel. For half a second, and half a second was all Ethan needed. The human's foot kicked, sharply against the side of Draxel's knee joint. Precise strike. Not powerful dot, just perfectly placed. There was a loud crack. Draxel's leg buckled. The giant alien stumbled forward in shock. Before he could recover, Ethan grabbed the edge of Draxel's armor collar and twisted his body sideways, Dot using the alien's own collapsing weight. Ethan redirected the fall. Draxel slammed into the floor so hard the corridor shook again. Silence followed. 5 seconds. Past .10. The final enforcer didn't move. Ethan slowly released his grip and stepped back. Draxel groaned weakly, but couldn't stand. All 5 enforcers were now on the ground. The corridor was completely silent. Hundreds of cadets stared at the human, standing alone in the center of the hallway. No weapons. No armor. Just calm breathing and steady eyes. Krath finally forced himself to sit up. His horned head turned toward Ethan with disbelief. "What are you?" he whispered. Ethan picked up his bag from the floor. For a moment, it seemed like the fight was over, but then something strange happened. Several security lights in the corridor suddenly flashed red. A sharp alarm echoed through the academy speakers. "Warning! Warning! Unauthorized combat detected." Heavy security doors at both ends of the corridor began sliding open. Inside them stood armored academy officers. And at their center, a tall commander wearing black command armor. The watching cadets quickly stepped back because everyone recognized him, Commander Threx, the officer responsible for training the most dangerous recruits in the academy. His glowing eyes scanned the destroyed corridor and the 5 defeated enforcers on the ground. Finally, his gaze stopped on Ethan. For a long moment, the commander said nothing. Then he slowly walked forward. The sound of his armored boots echoed through the silent hallway. When he stopped in front of Ethan, his voice was calm. "Human," he said. "Explain this." The entire academy held its breath, but Ethan's answer was simple. "They attacked me first," he said. Commander Threx studied him carefully. Then something unexpected appeared on the commander's face. A small smile. And suddenly, the watching cadets realized something. The commander didn't look angry. He looked impressed. Commander Threx stood silently in front of Ethan, his glowing eyes studying the human from head to toe. Around them, the corridor was still frozen in shock. 5 of the academy's toughest enforcers were lying on the ground, defeated in less than a minute, and the small human recruit stood calmly in the center of it all. Most cadets expected the commander to be furious. Unauthorized combat inside the academy was a serious offense. Punishments usually meant expulsion. Sometimes worse. But Commander Threx didn't look angry. He looked curious. Behind him, several armored officers began helping the injured enforcers to their feet. Krath struggled as 2 guards lifted him, his pride clearly more wounded than his body. The commander's deep voice finally broke the silence. "You say? They attacked you first." Ethan nodded. "Yes." Threx turned his glowing gaze toward Krath. The massive alien lowered his head slightly. For the first time since the fight began, he looked unsure. "They refused to kneel," Krath muttered. "We were enforcing tradition." Several cadets in the hallway shifted nervously. Everyone knew that excuse. The tradition of humiliating new recruits had existed for years. Some commanders ignored it. Others quietly allowed it. But Threx's expression did not change. He slowly turned back toward Ethan. "Interesting," he said calmly. Then he looked around at the watching cadets. Did anyone record this? Almost every hand in the corridor slowly went up. A few cadets even looked embarrassed. Threx gave a small nod. "Good." That single word confused everyone. "Good?" Krath's eyes widened slightly. The commander stepped forward, standing directly in front of Ethan now. His tall armored frame blocked the bright corridor lights behind him. You handled 5 senior cadets, Threx said. Without weapons, without armor. And you barely used force. A murmur spread through the crowd again. Barely used force? Ethan didn't respond. But the commander's glowing eyes narrowed with interest. Your movements were controlled, precise, efficient, Threx continued. You targeted joints, balance points, structural weaknesses. He paused. Military training. The whispering grew louder. That wasn't something normal recruits had. Even Kraft looked surprised. Threx tilted his head slightly. Yet according to your file, Ethan Cole is just a civilian recruit from Earth. No official combat background. He paused. Again, then the commander smiled. But that file is incomplete. The corridor went silent. Every cadet leaned forward. Ethan's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened slightly. Threx slowly turned toward the watching crowd. Since everyone here seems interested, the commander said calmly, perhaps it is time for a small clarification. He tapped the small device on his armored wrist. A holographic screen appeared in the air above them. Lines of classified data flickered across it. The commander's voice echoed clearly through the corridor. Cadets of Orion Academy, meet your new classmate. He pointed toward Ethan. Special Operations Instructor, Earth Defense Command. The entire hallway exploded with shocked voices. Instructor? Several cadets stared at Ethan, as if seeing him for the first time. Kraft's face went pale. But Threx wasn't finished. Cody name, Ghostwalker, the commander continued. The holographic screen displayed a series of combat records, dozens of missions, alien war zones, dangerous frontier operations, impossible survival reports. One line appeared at the center of the screen. Confirmed hand-to-hand combat victories. 312. The corridor fell silent again. Some cadets actually stepped backward. 312. Victories? Without armor? Without weapons? Threx looked back at Ethan. You were sent here to observe our cadets, he said calmly. To evaluate whether they are ready for real war. A long pause followed. Then the commander's voice dropped slightly. And apparently, your evaluation has already begun. Every eye in the hallway slowly turned toward the 5 defeated enforcers. Kraft looked like he wanted to disappear. Threx crossed his arms behind his back. So tell me, Instructor Cole, he said, based on what you have seen tonight. His glowing eyes moved across the frightened crowd of cadets. How did our students perform? The entire academy waited for the human's answer. Asterisk. The corridor was completely silent. Hundreds of cadets stood frozen, staring at the human they had thought was just another recruit. A moment ago, Ethan Cole had looked like an easy target. Quiet, ordinary. Someone the academy's enforcers could bully for entertainment. Now they were looking at him in a completely different way. 312. Confirmed combat victories. Special. Operations Instructor. Ghostwalker. The words echoed in their minds like thunder. Kraft slowly lowered his head. The pride that once filled his voice had completely disappeared. Commander. Threx folded his arms behind his back and looked calmly at Ethan. So, the commander repeated, how did our students perform? Every cadet in the corridor leaned forward slightly, waiting. Ethan remained quiet for a few seconds. His eyes slowly moved across the hallway, studying the crowd. He looked at the frightened recruits near the walls, the stunned upper-class cadets on the balcony railings, and finally, the 5 defeated enforcers still sitting on the floor. When he spoke, his voice was calm. They're strong. Several cadets blinked in surprise. That's good, Ethan continued. Strength matters in war. Kraft looked up slightly, confused. But strength isn't enough, Ethan added. The corridor grew quiet again. Ethan took a slow step forward. Your academy trains fighters, he said, looking at the surrounding cadets. But war doesn't care about pride. It doesn't care about size, rank, or intimidation. His eyes moved toward the fallen enforcers. 5 trained cadets surrounded one opponent, he continued. But instead of working together, they acted like predators fighting over territory. No one argued. because everyone had seen it. Ethan continued calmly. In real combat, that behavior gets entire squads killed. The words hit the corridor harder than any punch. Commander Threx watched silently, clearly interested. Ethan then pointed slightly toward Croth. "You're strong," he said, "but you attacked with anger." Then toward Varric. "You rely on speed, but you never protect your joints." Then toward Draxel. "You trust armor too much." The massive alien lowered his head slowly. Ethan finally looked back at the watching cadets. "And the rest of you?" No one moved. "You watched." The sentence landed heavily. "You saw something wrong," Ethan continued, "but you stayed quiet." Several cadets looked down at the floor. Ethan nodded slowly. "That is the most dangerous weakness of all." Silence filled the corridor again. Commander Threx stepped forward slightly. "And your final evaluation?" the commander asked. Ethan thought for a moment, and he gave a small shrug. "They have potential." A quiet wave of relief passed through some cadets. Ethan wasn't finished. They just don't understand their enemy yet. Threx tilted his head slightly. "And what enemy is that?" Ethan picked up his bag from the floor. His answer was simple. Reality. A few confused murmurs spread through the crowd. Ethan looked around the corridor one last time. "You think humans are dangerous because we come from a death world," he said. "High gravity, violent storms, deadly predators." Several cadets nodded slowly. "That's true," Ethan continued. "But those things didn't make us strong." He paused. "They made us careful." The human adjusted the strap on his bag. "Every day on Earth, something can kill you if you make a mistake," he said quietly. So humans learned one important lesson very early. The corridor was so quiet now that every word echoed clearly. Never start a fight you don't understand. Krath slowly looked away. Ethan turned toward Commander Threx. "Permission to continue observation tomorrow, Commander?" Threx gave a slow smile. "Permission granted, Instructor." Ethan nodded once. Then he simply started walking down the corridor. Again, no one blocked his path this time. Cadets quietly stepped aside as the human passed. Some stared in awe. Others in fear. And a few in deep thought, because everyone in the academy understood something now. The human recruit they tried to bully wasn't just another student. He was the lesson. And from that night forward, a new warning quietly spread through every hallway of Orion Military Academy. If you see a calm human walking alone, don't test him, because the fight will already be over before you even realize it started.